Good day, everyone. We're here again with Gustavs, embodying the logos. Today we are taking on Piety. And Gustav, take us away.
Yeah, I just had this idea about piety. I ran across it a couple times, and it's the sort of thing that piety as a virtue or as a concept, uh, I I'm used to it in a way. Like I'm used to it being part of the landscape, but then I took a closer look at it and I realized that I have no idea what I'm looking at. Don't really understand it, and I can't really kind of rationally fit it in anywhere because there's some parts of piety that I can sort of learn. Like I can root learn that this is pious. Like doing your evening prayers is pious or something like that, and that's it. That's as far as I can go. But I don't really see how it extends or how it's sort of how it's constrained in certain ways. I don't get it, and I wanted to talk to Manuel about it.
Yeah. So I have a similar experience. Like when Gustavs came to me, I was like, really? Like I don't like that word at all. I don't know what to do with it. I thought about it a bunch before we started. I basically figured like I don't have a good taste in my mouth when I hear that word because I have a lot of negative associations with it. Like it seems as something that is strived for, that it produces negative consequences. Um, I think it's a really dangerous thing, and the association I have is going back to the Chinese shows I watch, and they're talking about filial piety, and it has to do with being a proper son in that case, right? So there's certain duties that are associated with being a child, and basically, if you disgrace your parents, um, you've not exhibited proper filial piety. So that's also kind of like the in I had when thinking about it. So yeah, what do you think?
Well, I looked it up, right? I did a bit of research, and there's a couple sort of different, but not that different definitions of piety, and the old meaning, which is it comes from Latin, from the Romans. Like the Romans had the word piety, pietas, and the Greeks had what did they have? They had eusebio. Um, Yes, Eusebio. That's Greek. So like completely different words, but the Latin piety had to do with devotion towards gods, towards the parents, and towards the homeland. And it had to do, yes, about duties, about fulfilling the duties, whatever they are. That's kind of the next question. Like, what kinds of duties do we have? Why? Like, what's the meaning behind them? Like, sure, you can give me a like a list of duties, for example, to take care of your parents or to respect them, to show them sort of honor and deference. Maybe there's like a duty to fight for one's homeland. I don't know, maybe, but the really there's these sort of exemplars of piety from the ancient world, and Aeneas is this archetype of piety, who carries his father away from Troy after the Trojan War to give him a proper burial, and that's considered, like the archetype. And Antigone, who also different story, but her story was also in ancient Greece, and Antigone's story was that the king of the city, um, the king of the city had forbidden burying her brother, Antigone's brother, because the brother was a rebel, and he wanted to make a show out of him. And Antigone insisted on burying him, So she's sort of this exemplar of piety, of doing that which is customary and proper, and that's one of the main frames to analyze that that play of Antigone is about this pious tradition and custom, but that almost kind of is a bit empty. Custom or like tradition, it's more like there's this obligation, this spiritual meaning behind it, which I don't know. I think we really disconnect those two things mentally, automatically, between the custom and the meaning behind it. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm fairly in agreement from my thinking. So I tried to essentialize it a little bit, right? And I kind of reduced it to like a spiritual cleanliness, right? So I'm not supposed to transgress these norms, because if I transgress them, then my connection to the source of my identity is at stake, right? And so that for me comes with also like a fear-based motivation a lot, right? Like I ought not to transgress. Like that's at least the association I would have with it. And it's also before we started talking, I started thinking it as building a separation between you and the world. All right. So when you're pious, you're reserved, right? You've been reserved for some purpose, and that reservation prohibits you from being corrupted or affiliated with things that are not connected to that, right? So you're,
Could you give some examples of that reservedness and piety? I don't really
well,
see
for
it.
example, right, like you go out with your buddies and they're like, well, we're gonna drink tonight, and you're like, well, I can't do that, right? So you, or like I have reserved this night for prayer, right? It's just like you're distancing yourself from the world in order to maintain something spiritual of value to you, and and in a way that is necessary, because I've actually been experiencing this idea of degeneration, right? If you don't maintain a certain separation, then you start being confused with all sorts of earthly things, and you lose a certain sensibility, right? So there's a somewhat of a necessity in there, right? But to go back to the fear element, there's also like this, ooh, I can't touch the world, right? Like I'm not allowed to be tainted by existence, and I don't think that's healthy either, right? So there has to be some, I don't know, like some compromise there.
Yeah, definitely. I do kind of get what you're saying, but the question I think that I have is like is how do you know what you should be pious about? Like how should that piety be expressed? Because there's like there's this general principle about piety as well, which is that piety is very annoying. Like to people who are less pious than you, it's very annoying always, and people that are more pious than you are also, it's annoying, and you will make fun of them a little bit maybe, or you will be, you know, you'll hold your tongue perhaps, but there's something a little bit that you're like you kind of justify why you don't do that. But how do you know that maybe that you should put in that extra separation, that you have to have that, I don't know, that obligation to do something?
Well, that is the question, right? And that's why I don't like the idea of piety, because like I feel like there's no way to do it right. like I agree with your annoyance factor, right? It's like it seems like if you go left, it's wrong. If you go right, it's wrong. It's like there is no correct answer. And well, I was gonna drop a truth bomb in here. So I was like, okay, right? If there's no way to do it right, then probably it's not something we should be doing. All right, because that's been my intuition already, right? Like we shouldn't try to be pious, right? And then I was like, because you introduced it as a virtue, I'm pretty sure. And I was like, okay, let's look up if virtues are fruit. Which is like super silly that I ever thought of that. But yeah, they are fruits.
Yes.
So piety is a fruit of your relationship with whatever, right, is sourcing your identity, right? So your relationship of your with your identity is determining how much you should be separated from the world, obviously. Right? Because like you can't make that determination yourself. And then it's like, oh yeah, that makes total sense, right? And when you're trying to take hold of that, right, when you're trying to self-determine how pious you ought to be, like, yeah, obviously that's gonna be a mess. Right? Like,
Yeah, huge mess. Huge mess. Yes, I've been there. I've done that, and probably, yeah, it's messy. Like, for example, right now I'm doing this sort of preparation for a certain kind of like a prayer thing. It's like a prayer commitment for a while, and then the idea is that I undergo a transformation at the end, and I commit myself to a certain kind of lifestyle, honestly, in perpetuity. And it's pretty serious. It's pretty serious, and I've been going through it, and in the preparation, it's many times emphasized just how serious it is, and I'm like, wow. I mean, I take it pretty seriously, but this is but these people take it even more. Like, am I in the right place? Like, that's the question, because there's always all these exemplars, these archetypes of people who just do it so much better, and it's difficult to place yourself. And the thing is that I've been thinking about this, how was it the Platonic, was it the Aristotelian, like, where they talk about the virtues as the excesses, and that there's these excesses and what are they called, the deficiencies, right?
yeah, that's Aristotle. No.
Aristotle. So
That's why I don't like Aristotle.
right. So the excess of piety is excess is superstition.
Zealotry.
Superstition, yeah, I'm sure zealotry. Superstition, zealotry, scrupulosity, and idolatry. Whereas the deficiency is impiety and neglect, ingratitude, irreverence.
Sloth.
Right? Like, I can see that. I can see that. So this is actually a very big deal for the Protestants. Very, very much. Piety is like a big deal. And I hadn't really realized this, but when I think about, this whole thing about superstition and scrupulosity and idolatry, those are like very big points of attention for Protestants. Very, very big. Like, this comes up all the time, like way more than other I think, like, vices or virtues do. But those are the main things that I think the Protestant Reformation was focused on. That there's this idolatry of certain things, that Martin Luther's, right? So, like, I grew up a Lutheran, and Martin Luther's famous experience of going to the confessional a billion times a day because he would leave the confessional and then he would feel some satisfaction for having gone confessed, and then he would feel like he's being too sanctimonious, and then he would go confess that again and again and again. That's a pretty good example of scrupulosity. And any priest, I think, would I don't know, like, probably be confused, but I don't think any, like, if I did that, I don't think the priest would even go through a phase of like laughing at me. I think they would just get angry pretty quickly because I'm wasting their time, and it's clearly just like a tick or something. And the whole thing about superstition is also a very big thing. I went into this about researching how in the Reformation, what was considered a superstition and what was not. I couldn't find a proper basis for it, because superstition was a very big accusation that got used a lot, for different kinds of Catholic prayers and practices and traditions. Many were called superstitions, just I would say baselessly. Maybe the basis was annoyance.
The issue, right, is like, I don't think you can place the superstition in the activity. You place it in the participant. Right? So, and I even see that nowadays with Protestants. It's like, well, yeah, all of these people, right, they might actually be idolatrous in their behavior.
Yep.
Right? But that doesn't mean that the activity that they participate in is idolatrous, right? Like, it's just that the way that they relate to that activity is idolatrous. And yeah, it's really hard to make that distinguishment. And the thing that you just went through, right? Like, what you actually said to me is like, they went meta, right? So they were not in the activity itself, right? They were reflecting on the activity. It's like, okay, I went to confession, right? I'm going out of the confession. I'm having a prideful thought. I'm having a prideful thought about the prideful thought about the prideful thought, right? You're leaving your participation, right? And you're coming into a reflection, into a self-judgment, which is the space that you should not enter. Right? As like, because yeah, I've been engaging with this. It's like, okay, God the Father, okay, like, what does your Father want you to do? Right? It's like, well, he would like you not to come out of your confession feeling satisfied, right? Like, he would like you to be, I don't know, like, sober or even joyful or whatever, right? Like, because that's also a thing I experienced, right? Like why isn't there more joy in the church, right? Just like, you've just experienced something miraculous, like, theoretically at least, right? And like, why can't you just be in that joy, right? Like, people are way too serious in my mind, because it's like, and you could consider that a sin as well, right? It's like, because if you're not in the right relationship to your Father, right, like, that's not proper. Also, like, if you're not gonna be in the right relationship, that has a bunch of implications, right? Like, that doesn't mean that you should obsess about it, right, or whatever, because that's also not going to be proper, right? And this is how you get into the meta, right? It's like, now I'm going to have to think about how I have to think about things or whatever. It's like, and now you're trying to obtain the fruits, right? Because that joy is a fruit, right? That peace coming from the confession is a fruit, right? And the fact that you're in your self-reflection is an issue. And I really like this idea that you're connecting it to Protestants, right? Because, like, what is the obsession of a Protestant? am I going to be saved?
Mm.
Right? They're always busy with their salvation.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're busy with your salvation, what do you need to do? You need to self-judge.
Mm.
Right? It's like, oh, I did this one action. I confess Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. I'm saved. I'm self-judged. I'm now relieved of the guilt that I have to live a holy life. Right? Or that's not okay. No, I need to prove that I'm saved. So I need to have like plenty of works. Like I need to work my ass off so that everybody can see that that I'm saved, and that I can feel confident about myself that I am saved.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
Mm-hmm.
you always end up in these perverse piety spirals, right? Where you're pursuing something that should be a fruit of your relationship with God. And therefore it's going to be coming from you, right? Like you're going to do what you think God expects of you instead of actually do God's will. And yeah, so I feel like that is what you're touching on with the Protestants, and that has to do also with the personal quality of the salvation, right? Like the sola this, the sola that, right? When your life is not embedded, right? When you have personal responsibility about your relationship with God, right? All these things come with that, right?
Mm. Yeah,
It-
that's yeah. I think you really nailed it, but it's pretty. Wow, man, that's a lot. So it's a lot there. Yeah, and you know the thing about the personal responsibility. I was looking for what the definition of piety is, or where it crosses into superstition. And Saint Thomas Aquinas made that boundary as the rational, sort of the rational, that where was this? I wrote this down.
well, maybe you want to take a second about
Yeah.
talking about superstition. So super is above, right? Station, I don't even know what that means. Station.
I think it has to do with station and with standing, steady. Yeah, withstanding. I suspect. Like
Yeah.
constitution, superstition. I think, you know.
Yeah, and well, so that would be that certain things have dominion over certain aspects, right? And it's like a misplaced dominion or something, right? Which would be like idolatry, I guess, right? It's like you're granting something power that does not actually hold that power, and so you're and it's like a substitution of the true dominion, I guess, right? Because there is actually something there, right? Like that you ought to tend for, right? Like
Well, I think this is interesting because you say that it's that piety is when we do things when they are grounded in a basis of truth, right? But I think that we would think of piety as actually when we cannot really see that basis in truth, when it's traditional, when it's sort of taken in faith more than self-evident, right?
Well, it depends on how you organize it, right? So I think what you just described is like the materialist lens, right? And this is why I don't like Aristotle, right? Because it's like if you reason up from the earth, right, it's like, yes, your piety is gonna be obscured. Duh. Like, if your conception of Christianity is materialistic, right, then obviously your behaviors are going to be built up from the ground to reach God, right? So you're always going to have this mismatch between heaven and earth, because heaven is not informing the earth, right? It's not on earth as in heaven, but it's like earth is trying to reach heaven, right? um, but if you are, right, like if you are devoted to something, right, because I think that's probably a corollary with piety, right? It's connected to your devotion. Then that devotion determines what you ought to do, right? So if you're a soldier and you're training, you ought to have certain pious behaviors. When you're a soldier and you're on a campaign, those behaviors change, right? Because there's different expectations placed upon you, right? So there's a conditionality on the pious behavior, right? So if you're the firstborn son, you have different virtuous expressions than when you're a secondborn son, right? Because just the expectations that are placed upon you are different, right? So you ought to be different, and like you ought to separate yourself in different manners. You ought to involve yourself in other manners, right? So certain things that would be a disgrace from the firstborn would not be a disgrace in the hands of the secondborn, right? Things like that.
I just got really confused.
Well, let's go back to heaven and earth, right? So if we can agree that the pious behavior is flowing from a purpose, right, an identity that is connected to a purpose, right, then I don't think the duties are difficult to discern. Like, for example, if you join a monastery, right, you ought to remain there. Like it follows from the adoption of that identity,
Right.
right? You ought to participate with the daily routine, just like when you join an army. You ought to participate in the daily routine. Then you receive orders, right? You become responsible for this thing. You become responsible for that thing. Also follow from that identity, right? But that means that you're absorbed in a body, right? And the body dictates the way that you ought to be separated from the world, right? Like,
maybe, but yeah. So that does make perfect sense to me. But there's something about the piety which does seem to tend to exceptionalism and to being sort of outside the flock, right? To actually going above and beyond what is expected of you, or like what you would find to be expected of you. So, yeah.
well, let's rephrase that. Would you agree that that would be the transcending of your human nature?
Oh, I don't know if I would agree with that.
Because it would be over and above your human nature, right? So you would adopt the nature from whatever purpose that you're serving.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
And I think when we're talking about the setting apart, right, that's guarding you from your human nature, basically, right? It's like, no, you're not allowed to partake in this part because you're reserved for this other part. And like you can see the distinction between like a foot soldier and the elite whatever, right? Like the elite whatever, like they're having, I don't know, like a special diet, special spiritual exercises, special physical exercises. A normal soldier has some of these things, but they're allowed to have a life, right? Like they're allowed to be of the world as well.
Yeah. That is right, but yeah, that's right. That's right. But I just think I'm a bit confused because a lot of these have to do with a lot of these sort of criteria or ways of looking at piety have to do with doing with judging based on reason. So, for example, as I started saying, Thomas Aquinas says that piety is when the practice is grounded in reason and legitimate tradition rather than magical thinking or illegitimate tradition. Right? So like if you base it and the whole thing about legitimate, illegitimate tradition, I don't really know how to determine that either. Like that's probably not my job, first of all. But leaving that aside, if it's based on reason, then that it kind of it can sort of become an individual determination question. No?
Well, I don't like the word individual, right? If
I
we
don't
replace it with personal, right? But yeah, like if you are extended duties, right? Um, they should not go beyond your capacity, right? Like so. What is expected of you is only what's reasonably expected of you, right? Like if you put me in a position and I can't fully carry those duties, right? I shouldn't be trying to do them all because then I destroy myself and what I'm responsible for, right? So,
But
I think,
how do you determine that?
well, reason, right? Because like I think reason, things that are reasonable, right, are contextualized, right? They're situationally integrated, right? So you're taking an ideal or something, right? And you're like, well, obviously we can't reach it, and like we shouldn't even try to, but we should try to do what is in our means, right? Um, so you have to compromise for the flesh in some sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that's where legitimate tradition comes in, right? So what is tradition? Well, that which has been proven true, right? And legitimate means that it is from proper authority, right? So it's not tradition from someone who doesn't know about it, right? Like a Protestant, right? Because like a Protestant, when appealing to the Bible, would also appeal to tradition in a manner, right? But if that is explained improperly, it would be illegitimate.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically the way I understand it, right? So you have to have the thing above, right? You have to have the answer below, and then you have to find the specific instantiation and how it can conform in the moment, right? And at that point, maybe you can go Aristotelian and say, well, if you go too much this way, then you get this behavior. If you go too much that way, you can get that behavior, right? But you have to first have proper alignment, that you know what you're doing, right? Because you can't determine excess without the standard, right? Without the knowledge of what
Yes, yes.
and I think that's why we don't like piety, because we just don't have that standard. Like we just completely lost it.
Like
And
what would be that standard, do you think?
well, that would be the living word, right? Like that would be the experiential truth that people have gathered in their lives, the authority that they are speaking from, and nobody's talking from that authority because they left tradition, or they they're illegitimate, right? They try to do it their own way. There's many means by which corruption has entered, and well, I can talk about myself, right? Like I've been looking for, well, like the Holy Spirit, right? Like that what reveals truth, because like I think at a certain point you can no longer get closer to truth, because you need to be part of a true body. Like only by being part of a functioning body you can have experiential understanding of truth, right? And before you're part of that, like what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Like and so I think those bodies are scarce in the world. They're just almost nowhere. They're preserved the right way of being, and all we have is, well, like I actually think that churches aren't even striving to be a body. They're pursuing local purposes, right?
Right. So what would you say is the boundary between like a habit or a little practice and like tradition, like something that's transient and something that is permanent?
Well, I think you already touched on it. All right. It's like, okay, like why does whatever this Greek person bring back the body, right? Because it's the right thing to do, right? Like they're connecting the purpose and the tradition, right? And they're the same, right? They're not confused or whatever. Well, they're fused, right? Like they're not. There's no gap in between. And when we go meta, right? when we go onto some sort of reflection, because it's not natural to us, right? That's basically what it often means. We're not in the right participation.
Yep.
And so right, like I've been spending time looking at the people coming from the Eucharist, which is really amusing, right? Because you see the way that they carry themselves, right? And in the way that they carry themselves, you see whatever spirit is interacting with what just occurred, right?
Really? I don't think I've really done that ever.
Yeah,
I don't think.
no, it was really amusing to me when I saw this, right? Because like there's also an element of pride, right? Because or pride is maybe not the right word, but there's you go there, right, with thinking what you ought to do, right? And then you go away with thinking what just happened.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's, and like in some sense, right, like you have to be naked before the altar, right? And that so there's definitely something happening, right? Independent of whether they approach everything correctly, right? And so there's a spiritual process occurring, and you can read that of the people, right? So some people judge themselves, right? Some people reach out, like other people they get distracted, right? Other people try to be composed. There's many reactions to that, and like I think a lot of them are they're removed from what ought to be occurring, right? And obviously we cannot always in full surrender enter, but it's interesting to think about, right? Like what's the right way
Yeah.
to lead.
Yeah, I used to have this in my old church. I would talk to some of the Eucharistic ministers, I guess you could call them, about what's the proper way of distributing the sacrament, of how to give it to people, how to distribute it, right? And whether you're like supposed to do it like super firmly or very solemnly, and like how you're supposed to move like rigidly or what. And they all said pretty much that at the end of the day, you just do it normally.
Which means what?
Yeah.
But it basically means that you cannot know what is right. Right?
Yeah,
I mean,
you shouldn't go thinking about the thing too much.
right,
Like you need to just be in the moment
right,
and focus on the purpose.
right. And so this goes back again to making the local, right, the circumstantial connect to the ideal, right?
Yep.
And since the local is always gonna be off, right? Like it's never gonna be in perfect alignment, right? Like there needs to be an acceptance of the flaw, of the sin, right? And with the acceptance and the forgiving of that sin, right? You can overcome that, right? And still participate in a higher way than your local instantiation allows for, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense, but I think one thought that I did have about this whole thing is that that the hierarchy is really important for these things, about the sort of rational or reasonable determination of what's right, or what you should be doing. That it's a question that we can that we just have to give upwards in the hierarchy, sort of specifically, very manifestly, and in an incarnated hierarchy, whatever, like your priest, your father, maybe your mother, your boss. You have to give that up to their judgment. And so I think there's this question of like does the tradition or does the practice precede the instruction of the person, or does it not, sort of? So for example, like we can look at like the certain practices of the Catholic Church. So for example, let's say the rosary. So it kind of, it started out as a there's many ways of looking at it, and there's the official versions, and then there's the historical critical versions of how it came to happen. But doing the rosary is pretty pious, and it's a pious practice. But at some point in time in history, it was it at that level? Was it at the tradition level? Was it at the level of like commonly understood I don't think it was. I think at one point it was like a folk practice,
A what?
a folk practice, like a
Hmm.
like a traditional thing. And so how does it cross that boundary from folk practice to tradition?
Well, yeah, I would approach it a little bit differently, right? So when we look at Plato, right, it starts with aristocracy, right? The founders, right? Like what is the aristocracy? Well, the aristocracy is those who designed, right, who are being the start, right? Like this, the thing that was not now is because of them, right? So they're the foundation, and thereby they're true, right? Assuming that they're pursuing truth, right? Um, and so they must have superior experiences in some sense than whatever generations follow, right? Uh, Now, obviously, there are exceptional people in the following generations, naturally, right? But well, we can even look at what we've been doing, right? Like we've been walking at the vanguard in certain ideas, right? And because they've been revealed to us in our participation, right, in our exploration, we know them in a way that probably other people will never know them, right? And in my understanding, right, that is a true way, right? That's a true way of knowing them, assuming that we're not misguided, right? And um, then at a certain point, right, like that has to be transferred to a new generation, right? Like a new generation that does not share experiences with us, right?
Yes.
It doesn't share the same motivations, right? Like why things are important, but they have to see the value of the thing that we've founded, right? That
Hmm.
we've created. And when that is established, right, like then tradition comes in, right? And you can say, well, like there might be a higher authority that says, well, it's okay or it's not okay, but like, that's kind of irrelevant, right? Because something has been established, right? People come to it over and over again. They keep it alive, right?
Hmm.
So that's already justification, right, for
Hmm.
its existence. And and then, right, like now you're gonna have to say, well, this is within the bounds, within the dogma, right? This is outside the bounds.
Hmm. Yep. Yeah, because it's quite easy to convince people that that something is a tradition. Let's say, I think the best example is burial, like burying the dead, or some sort of funeral rites. That they are traditional since prehistory and way before prehistory, it seems. So is it traditional? Is it proper? I think pretty much everybody, like nobody would deny that ever. That's like that's like the ultimate tradition. But there's traditions that are newer, and convincing people of the legitimacy of that tradition or of its traditionalness, right? Like, do you convince people? Do you just tell them? How do you do that?
Well, well, this is actually getting really close to my experience, right? Because I'm trying to deliberate whether what church to join, how I should join, how I should even think about that, right?
Yeah.
And like church is like the biggest tradition, right? Um, and so there is an element, right, like with the rosary or whatever, right? Like the mechanical. I like this. I guess the Protestants would argue this with the Bible, right? Like that just devotion to the Bible would reveal truth to you, right?
Mhm.
And devotion to the Rosary would have the same quality. Um, but then the question becomes: is that good enough, right? Like, is such a practice actually making you true, or is it a vehicle of deception, right? Like, I would argue that reading the Bible is just a vehicle for deception, right? That is presenting itself as truth, right? Because that's the issue, right? Like, if it would just be a normal book, like, I wouldn't have that much of an issue with, but because it's the Word of God, right? And if you misinterpret it, that has significant issues, right?
Yep.
And the chance that you don't misinterpret it is like zero, right?
Yeah, yeah, and because of this sacramental sort of label put on it, you approach it wholeheartedly without reservation and give yourself completely to it, and that's that's pretty dangerous.
Right. And so all of these things, right, they have a purpose, right? And like, this is where authority comes in, right? And tradition, right? So when you have an integrated system that are all pointing to the same truth, right? Like, now you have corrective mechanisms, right? So you get a signal from reading the Bible, but then in your participation in the service or whatever, you get a contradicting signal, right? And then, if you're an honest person, you try to resolve this, right? But when you never get that feedback, right, because there's no other authoritative source that can challenge your understanding, now you're in an issue, right? Like,
Wait, can you go through that again? I kind of didn't
well,
get.
I can say it for myself. So I read things in the Bible, right? So, for example, this piety stuff, right? Like, I'm just you're saying, well, piety is this virtue, right? And my understanding of virtue is this is a good thing to do, right? Like, that's basically my understanding of virtue,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
Which like, I spent a lot of time with virtue on this channel and like on the Discord, right? Like, talking about virtues, right? And then it's like, man, this is not sitting right. And I just look it up, and it's like, yeah, virtue is a fruit.
Mm-hmm.
Fruits are not things to do. They're things that you do as a consequence of pursuing other things, right?
Yeah.
So when you're trying to pursue virtue, that's a sin, right? And it's like,
Is it? Is it though? Is it though?
yeah, I think so.
So you think it's idolatry to pursue
Yes.
virtue? Okay.
Yes. I think this is where everybody's making the mistake. Like, it's all fruits, bro. Everything is fruits. There's nothing that we can own. Like we cannot be good. We can only participate in the good.
So
And,
do
and
you
as
think
long
there's anything other than the good that we can sort of? So do you think there's things that are sort of that do have that sacramental label put on them that is like like the virtues, for example, or the Bible or the Rosary or something that has this stamp of approval by something that we can safely and wholeheartedly give ourselves to, or not? Or do you think it's always just too dangerous?
Yeah, I don't even know what that means, to wholeheartedly give yourself to one of these things. Like, can you give an example?
Um, like for example, to marriage, that you fully believe that marriage will lead you into the kingdom of God, and then you focus on that.
Yeah, but
Possibly,
marriage can't do that by itself. Like, no. But like any system, right, that is not gonna be in relation to external systems, right, is gonna corrupt. Like it has to.
yeah.
So like no, like just hard no.
So I do get what you're saying, but I think we do have these virtues given as these concepts, as these things for a reason, to make people able to engage with the good. That there's sort of these maybe a person can't actually aim higher than a virtue.
What makes you say that?
Because the good, right, trademark,
Yeah.
is too high. I would say it's not tangible enough to people.
Yeah, but yeah, okay. But this. I think this is just a consequence of materialism.
Okay.
So, like, what is good?
Let's say it's completely intangible to me. I have no idea.
Give a biblical definition of what good would be. Doing good. Doing good, not good. Doing good.
Doing good. I don't know anymore.
Okay. What is God looking at?
Fruits.
No, that's what we look at, because
That's
we
what we
can't look at other things, which is the things that God looks at, right?
faith, I guess.
The state of our heart. Right?
Is that distinguished from intentions?
Yes. Definitely. Because intentions are rational.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, so what is the state of your heart?
Excited.
Nice.
Hopeful. Hopeful.
No, I'm just well, yeah, hope has to do with it, right? But your heart carries your desire, right? So a desire is not an intention, right? You might desire your intentions, right? But a desire is that which moves you, right? And so I've recently been looking at this idea of putting your treasures in heaven, right? And so first I thought that treasures were these things that basically they're like what are they called? Trophies, right? Like you just stash your trophies in heaven, right? It's like, oh, look, I achieved this, I achieved that. But what is a treasure? Participatorily.
Treasure, that which is valuable, that which is the fruit.
Mm-hmm. So what, something that is valuable, right? So how do you treat valuable things?
You protect them. You might ornament them. You might
display them.
Yeah.
You kind of worship them in a way, right?
Venerate, but yeah.
Yeah, venerate, fine, right? So in other words, right, the things that you treasure are the things that you hold in your heart. I treasure you. In other words, they're objects of love.
Yeah.
So now, if you go back to the meaning, store your treasures in heaven, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
So if we try to connect that to the idea of what is participating in the good, treasuring the things of heaven.
Yeah.
If you treasure the things of heaven, how do you act?
Piously.
Right. Well, yes, virtuously, piously. Right. Yes. That is what being good is, right? Like goodness has nothing to do with the state on earth. Like it's completely independent of earth. It's where your desire of your heart is.
Well,
right?
But you were previously saying about how we don't get to like just be virtuous. We actually have to be aiming towards the good.
Right.
So virtues are not a good way for me to aim towards heaven on their
No.
own. No. Okay.
No, they're helpful for discernment, right?
Okay. So, all right. So they're helpful for discernment.
So what is the thing that you should ultimately desire? Lord's Prayer.
Yeah. All of that stuff.
Right? Your will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Right.
There.
So,
That's good.
So like as a condescension, can you say that it is good to focus on the Lord's Prayer?
Well, in some like you have to look at it this way, right? So why do we eat? We eat to be informed, right? We eat to be as heaven, right? We receive from heaven our food, right? Which is also in the Lord's Prayer, right? So that we might have our flesh conform to that, right? Whatever that means, right? Like but that's the goal, right? Like we're trying to be created in the image of God, right? In the image of heaven. Like we're trying to be a vessel, right, of the Holy Spirit, right? Like we're trying to be an imitation of the, well, imitation is the wrong word, but an image of the divine will on earth, right? So so virtue would be the expression of that divine will, right?
Yes.
But we can't express the divine will, because then we're expressing our will, right? So that's just the wrong way of approaching things.
But do you think we can approach the divine will without the virtues? or the divine, or God, or the good? Do you think we can approach the good without the virtues?
Yes. By having Christ as our Lord and Savior. How's that virtuous?
But having Christ as your Lord and Savior, I think that's just not, like, what does that mean?
Well, that is a good question. Now we can start
I
talking.
think it means I think it means that you have to act with virtue, and therefore you need the virtues to aim towards the good. I think you just added another intermediary. So instead of the virtues being the intermediate with the good, you just said having Christ as your Lord and Savior, which is no less helpful than saying the good, I think.
Yeah, because you want to know.
Well, I want to have some
Good
access.
Good day,
some
Mr.
path.
Protestant. How are you doing?
No. I want to have some path that I can grasp, even if I don't immediately receive, the full elevator up. But I want to have at least a staircase that I'm sure will
Right,
that I can trust. That is a challenge.
what was the tangible thing that I gave you?
Christ.
Yeah, what as well?
Lord and Savior.
No, it was the desires of the heart, right?
Oh.
The storing of your treasures in heaven.
But I don't know where heaven is, let's say.
Yeah, right. But do you understand that the treasure would be problematic if the treasure is virtue, right?
No, I don't see the problem.
Right. Well, now you have work to do. So what would happen if you would pursue virtue? It would become an idol, right?
No, I don't.
No?
No, because I think it acts in service of the good.
Then you're pursuing the good, not virtue.
No, I think it's no. I don't think pursuing virtue is in how to put it, in conflict, or that it creates a deficiency of pursuing the good, pursuing virtue. I don't think pursuing virtue comes at the expense of pursuing the good. Do you think it does? How do I know? I think.
What were the Pharisees doing?
Because that's what tradition says.
What are the Pharisees doing?
Pharisees? Oh man, I don't know.
What were they trying to be pious?
Yeah, I think they were.
Right? Were they trying to be virtuous?
Probably, yeah.
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 Were they doing that in service of the good?
I think they thought they were. I'll give them
right.
that.
Okay. Well, there you go.
So you think that not focusing on the virtues is that focus on the virtues is the problem?
Yeah.
Really?
What was the woman that was having the issue of blood doing? She reached for Christ,
and
then
his
virtue.
his
What did the virtue do? The virtue left Christ, right? Went to her.
Yeah, that's true. But Christ is in our current age. He's in heaven.
Yeah, our treasures too, right?
Yeah.
But that's your materialism. Like you understand that. Like I'm not saying I have the answer, right? But here we get to fate, right? So we get to the heavenly virtues, right? And it's like, okay, so how do we have hope?
I don't even know anymore.
Well, so we don't have hope by things of ourselves, right? We have hope by the promises of God, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So what do we have faith in? In the things that we hope for, right?
Yeah. Well, we hope that we well we hope because of as a consequence of Christ's actions. We have faith that we can imitate, well, sort of imitate him, but that we will imitate him to the end, to the resurrection and all of that.
Yeah, we will partake, right? And
Yeah.
in our partaking, we will be like him, with
We
him,
will
through
resemble
him,
him
in
and
and by
everything that
him,
happens.
right?
Yeah.
All of these things, right? So it's important to realize that in our like what is Christ? Well, Christ is all these supernatural manifestations, right, of the transcendence of human nature, basically, right, in pursuit of goodness, right? Or the will of God, better said, but
Okay.
whatever,
Yeah.
right? So we see these things, if we have eyes to see, in the world, right, and they inspire us. It's like, oh, that's the hand of God. Like this could not have happened without God, right? And then because we believe these things are possible, right, we also desire them in our own life.
Yes.
Right. So to go back to your heart's desire, right? You should desire to die and be reborn in Christ. And then you are
Yes.
virtuous, right?
Yes. 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 But yeah, that's right. That's right.
To go back to the Eucharist, right?
Yeah.
You throw away yourself so that you can receive the divine while you are not worthy.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
That's the way that we participate in virtue. we touch the divine, right? And then we can act virtuously by grace.
I'm still really really dissatisfied with what you said about
Yes, it is really dissatisfying
virtue
because you have to humiliate
at the
yourself.
expense. So, like, do you think that like, do you, like, let's say I venerate the virtue, do you think that comes at the expense of worshiping God?
That depends on how you do it, right? Like we go back to the Protestants. Like I think
Yeah, we do.
the Protestants were right. Like
Oh, okay.
I think they saw a bunch of people that were doing the wrong thing. Like,
Okay.
yes.
Well, maybe, you know, here's an idea. Maybe the Protestants were projecting because they were the ones doing it wrong.
Oh, well, I'm sure that the Protestants were doing it wrong too, right? But that doesn't mean that the other people were doing it right.
How can like how would you discern that?
Fruits,
Fruits? I don't know.
right? Like why don't you and I like the word piety? Because all the expressions of piety that we are familiar with are corrupt, right? That's basically it.
Actually, I stop. I quite like piety. I like it. It's not true that I don't like it, but there's something about it that I haven't really
Yep.
fully.
But deal with the point, right? Like we don't have good examples of piety, right? Like you had to go back to the Greeks. Like
Yeah. There's Well, there are some many saints were very pious. I think they are
yeah,
good
but
examples.
they're not in our lifetime, right? Like I believe that there were many pious people that were properly pious, like that, right? Like that. I have no doubt. I have no doubt. But I don't have a good way to relate to them because I don't have proper understanding of what that would mean.
So you think you would have to meet them like in real life?
Yeah, I think right, like and this is the tradition, right, that I was referencing, right? Like it needs to be living. And like I believe that if you devote yourself to a saint and to imitating that saint and to praying to that saint, that you can bring that back to life, right? In you, you can have that light shine upon you, right? But yeah, that requires a lot, right? Like that's not 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
And like I think piety, right? Like we talked about, is like you're in something, right? You're in a family, you're in a nation, you're in a church.
Yeah.
So it's not something that you can do by yourself. And this goes back to what I think this goes back to the issue that I've been dealing with. It's like, no, there's no proper bodies. So if there's no proper body, there's no proper way to be pious. Like it's that simple.
What do you think is necessary for a proper body that's missing?
Devotion. Like
So piety is missing.
no, like in order to be, yeah, like piety would be the thing that would make you part of the body, right? In some sense, right? So yeah, like when I say devotion, right? Like I mean that you can't have a body when you're not all in, right? And you said marriage, right? That's the easiest body because it's the smallest.
Yep.
And like I don't think we've lost that too. Like we've lost marriage.
Yeah. To some extent. But you were saying how for a proper body we need more devotion, I suppose, like people taking it seriously.
Yeah. Like if you want to be part of a body, right? Like you can't be halfway. Because then like in order to be part of a body, your sense making needs to be attuned to the needs of the body, right? Which with a family is relatively easy, right? Because that's your daily life, right? But if you go to a church, right, like a village church, right, then that requires the whole community to commune. And so like I've just been in complete despair because like I don't think that's possible in a city.
Yeah.
At least not in how modern cities are organized. Like I think you theoretically could do it if you do it for like a part of the city, right? But
Yep.
then you'd have to restructure social life that everybody goes and lives around the church that they go to.
Yeah,
Like,
I think I totally agree, and I've been thinking about cities quite a bit, and I think the loss of the city walls really changed a lot of that, because it used to be that you were a citizen, maybe you had to pay a tax to get in, or not if you're a citizen. The guards would know you by your face, and all of that kind of creates a real sense of belonging, and of not belonging, of foreigner and of local and all that stuff. Which now that we don't have city walls, it's like there's literally no discernment between insider outsider.
yeah, we don't even have country walls anymore.
Yeah, and yeah, we don't. And if
Right? Like everything, we don't have family walls anymore.
yep,
Like we don't have anything.
yep, yep,
And so
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
this is why I'm
You see
in
that
so much
even if
despair about
even let's say you are some merchant from the other side of the empire, but if you're a resident of the city, you're a resident of the city, and that's that. Like it's maybe you have special some sort of special rules apply to you. You know, like you're an Armenian in Jerusalem or something. Like you definitely belong there. You have your place. Maybe you pay a special tax. I don't know. Maybe not.
right. Well, and then you can understand the role of the church, right? So like if you go to a different city, right? Like you join a church, right? You'd be integrated in the church, right? And then from the church, you would integrate into the city. It's
Yep.
like we don't have these processes. Like we don't have anything like that. We don't have any identities that are firmly bound to any locale anymore. Like we've dissolved everything, right? And so, that includes churches. Like I've been complaining about churches. Like churches is not the place that you go to. The world is the place that you go to. The church is your home.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I don't necessarily agree with your idea that for bodies we just need more diversion. I think we need the walls, uh, and and I think the reason I think that is because the walls have dissolved everywhere, right? And just the churches that do remain and the communities that do remain, they purely remain because of diversion, because they're the ones that have diversion. But I don't think everywhere had that. I don't think everywhere had that back in the day. But I think the walls were what kept things going anyway, even when it was a little bit
Yeah,
less.
but walls are ultimately just physical manifestations of things that already are. Right?
Yes, but I think they're like a canalization. Like you instantiate it, and the walls will help the thing, even if it's a little bit transient. If you build the walls, it has a way better chance of keeping its momentum and keep it going.
Yeah, like I agree, right? But like when you look at a city, like within city walls, there wasn't one church, right? So it's like obviously every physical denotation, right? But you have quarters. You have quarters of the city, right? It's like, oh, in this quarter of the city, this occurs, right? In this quarter of the city, the merchants live. In this quarter of the city, the artisans do their crafts, right? In this is all the smithies and all the right, like all the messy work, like these. There's always gonna be distinction in unity, right? Like that's what a body is, right? Like there's body parts, right? And what are you gonna wall the body parts as well, right? Um,
Maybe.
the issue is, right, there should be walls, right, but they should be spiritual, right? Like, can we have physical walls with them too? Sure, right? Like there's nothing wrong with physical walls, but the the pious thing to do, right? Because that's what we started with, right? Like I said, piety is separating. What is a separation? Well, that's a wall, right? So you can have a gap as a separation, or you can have a hedge, right? Like when I was praying in my church, we were talking about the hedge of protection that God built around Job. So we have hedges, right? We have walls.
Yes.
What was also a separation when Moses crossed the sea.
Yeah.
But that's not a wall. And somewhere else in the Bible, there's also this chasm, right? This unbridgeable chasm. And I think that should be the proper separation, the chasm, where it's like the altar or the Holy of Holies or whatever, right? Like it doesn't have to be physically obstructed, right? But everybody knows not to go there.
Well, wait. So are you making an argument against walls and for chasms?
Yes, because right. What happens, right? Like what are we doing in the modern world? We make laws, right? We make laws for every transgression. You're not allowed to do hate speech, right? So we build a wall. It's like, oh, you're not allowed to cross this wall, else you're in a transgression. Like proper society would just have a chasm. It's like, well, we just don't go there, right? Because it's improper. Like we don't do bad things because they're bad, not because there's a law that is going to put us in jail, right? Like this is grace versus the law. Like we're not saved by the law, we're saved by grace, and everything that we're going to put under the law, which is a physical manifestation, we're gonna recognize the gratitude aspect, right? Like we're gonna miss. It's not gonna be virtuous anymore, right? Like it's not virtuous to follow the law because you're avoiding punishment.
But it can be good.
Well, actually, no. I don't. From a Christian, good, no. Like I don't think your actions can be good. Like
I think that without the law, you will have no idea whether you're doing any good unless you have those laws. Or like generally speaking, you will be very confused about what you should and shouldn't be doing.
well, yeah, well, a couple things there, right? So, like, I'm not saying there's no use to the law, right? Like, like that's not what I'm saying, right? But when someone stops and doesn't commit a crime because they're afraid of being punished, that doesn't make them good. Like it just doesn't. It just makes them cowards, basically, right?
Wait, so you think that the intention to to do a crime is sort of the same order of badness as committing the crime itself?
Yeah, it's the same sin.
Is it?
Yeah, with the other one has less restrictions. Like it's just the control over the flesh that's different. Like, and I'm not saying that because it's in the same category that you should treat them the same. Like, no. Like, obviously someone who doesn't have self-control needs to be treated differently than someone who does, right? But they're both untrustworthy, right? Just because someone has self-control doesn't make them trustworthy. Like,
I think it does, for sure.
no. If the law is the thing that is stopping someone, like, no, don't trust them. Like, what are you talking about?
I don't know. Like if
Because they like
obedient citizen and a lawful citizen, I think that's a pretty good ground for trusting them sometimes.
no, it says nothing. Like, you can trust virtuous people, not lawful people. What are you talking about?
Can you trust virtuous people? I don't know.
Yeah, like people with actual fruits. Well, but also it depends on what you're trying to do, right? Like if you're just trying to have a trade, being lawful is good enough, right? But if you're trying to have a relationship with someone, like, lawful is not enough.
Yeah. No, like not for everything, but I would still argue that it's important to not in a vacuum, but that it's important to follow the law.
Yeah, obviously it's like it's worse if you transgress, right? Like, yes. But
so
the Bible says, right? If you transgress one law, you transgress the whole law.
Well, it sounds like we're saying a lot of things like, like just focusing on virtue itself isn't good. You know, you have to focus towards the ultimate good, really. But like
that doesn't mean that you can't attempt virtue, right? Like it doesn't mean that you should ignore virtue. Like I'm not saying that, right? Like you can study virtue, right? Like you can develop discernment around virtue, right? Like you can study the lives of virtuous people, right? To get an understanding of how your life could be different, right? Like there's nothing wrong with that.
But you were saying it comes at the expense. But you were saying that it comes at the expense of the good.
No, but that's not pursuing virtue.
Isn't it?
No. Like when I watch whatever, like when I do something, that doesn't mean that I necessarily pursue it. Like I might just be curious. Like pursuing would be that you want to have it in you, right? You want to eat it. You want to be made in the image of it. That's what pursuit means, right? Like if I'm pursuing to be a soldier, right? I want to become a soldier. Like I want my identity to be a soldier.
Okay, this is beyond my capacity.
Well, you can have a pursuit, right? And you can have a calling. Calling.
Yeah,
You see
maybe,
the
I don't know. This is,
distinction?
yeah, I'm completely, yeah,
Just
I'm done.
I want to conclude, right? So it's about the directionality, right? So a pursuit is you reaching out, right? Grasping, right? Sometimes something out there is calling you to go there, right? That's different than pursuing it, right? You're answering. So that is the thing that I'm talking about, right? So there's a relationality there, right? So a pursuit is in relation to pride, and a calling is in relation to service. It's not your will. It's just not. A pursuit is your will. And because it is your will, it's always going to be problematic.
I don't like that.
I know. That's why I'm like, and I'm also talking to myself, dude. Like I'm also talking to myself, right? Like nobody likes this. Like nobody likes this. It sucks. And because we don't like it, and because we know it sucks, we know it's right.
I'm done. I'm done. This is too much for me. This is,
So checkmate. So yeah, you wanna have a conclusion, a pious conclusion, or are we in the mud now?
I think I can do this piously. I think I'm quite happy about Piety. I really like it. I think that you need to find genuine tradition in order to stay pious. I think that's a prerequisite, I suppose. And perhaps that's a difficulty for some people. I respect that, but it's out there. Knock and you will find. And I think that there are examples. I know that there are examples of piety that we can follow in life, and I think that the Protestants were projecting when they were disagreeing about the superstition stuff. Yep.
Okay. For me, like the thing that stands out is patience. Um, I've been thinking a lot about that things will come at their own time, and pursuing them is is just, yeah, it's just going to make a mess of it, right? And I think proper piety is part of that, and I think I'm in agreement with you that we can find it again, but we will find it at the end of a road, and we cannot walk the road with it. That's basically what I'm taking away from it. Is like, no, just make sure that you get your ducks in a row. And actually, I was reading earlier today, and I was talking about being a proper friend. And what it said was, in order to be a proper friend, you need to be pure, effectively. You need to be beyond the pursuit of self-interest, right? So if you're trying to be pious, if you're trying to be like, you can't help, right? Like you can't help your friend. You can't be there for them in the proper way. You can't love them because you're self-interested. You're deluded, right? So the proper way to love people, I didn't like this one either. It's like the proper way to love people is to be without blemish. Because you will take whatever is attached to you into whatever relationship you go into, even the one with Christ. And in order to be a proper friend to Christ, you're gonna have to rid yourself of all these things that are holding you back, right? And then you can be with them, love. And I was looking up the virtue thing, and I said love was a fruit of the Spirit. It's like love is a fruit, people. It's not a thing that you can do. It's a fruit of being in Christ. And if we try to own this stuff, we're in the domain of Satan. So yeah, I think it was really fruitful. I don't know what was fruits of the Spirit. I trusted this fruits of the Spirit. But thanks for watching. Leave your comments, and see you again at the next recording.